Kyber is a new tool that has been rapidly gaining popularity over the last few months. But what exactly does it do, and how does it work? These are both great questions, and fortunately, I have some great answers. Similar to ChatGPT, where you can give it a prompt and it'll write that thing for you, Kyber also uses AI to generate a response. Except Kyber is generating videos, and that's what's so revolutionary about it. As if by magic, Kyber can transform your words into an image, or a series of images to make a video, and in several different styles. Let's talk a bit about all the different features you'll see with Kyber AI. You have the option of entering a text prompt or uploading your own content, such as photographs, music, or videos. These inputs will form the foundation for creating your assets. You can select your preferred art style, although there are currently only a few options like cinematic, photorealistic, 3D rendering, watercolor, oil painting, steampunk, and several artist-inspired styles. On top of that, it lets you change characteristics like length or aspect ratio, or select particular project options such as camera movements or several scenes. You can start the generation process once you've entered in prompts and selected the settings. The AI algorithm will analyze your inputs and generate one-of-a-kind images known as preview frames, depending on the specific prompt or mix of options and uploaded information. Following the completion of content generation, you will be able to study the preview frames and either change some details to obtain the desired effect or proceed to make your video. Finally, you can share your creations with others or use them for anything else. And unfortunately, Kyber does cost money since the process requires a decent amount of computing power. So if you generate a ton of videos, pretty soon you'll have to generate a new wallet. There are 3 subscriptions and each one gives you a certain amount of credits each month, like an allowance. 1 credit is equal to 1 second of video, so yeah, spend them wisely. There is currently a free trial though, and it gives you 60 credits. Personally, I spent my 60 big ones making some silly monkey art, like this. But let's run through an example. There are 4 different options to generate a video. You can create it from an image, transform it from a pre-existing video, inspire it from a song, or just use words on their own. For this demonstration, let's take a look at the begin with initial image option. Here, I'm just going to select a stock image of a man and hit continue to prompt. Now it's going to give you 2 boxes to fill in. First, you're essentially going to say what you want the video to be of. You can pretty much write anything and the AI will do its best to understand the keywords, so it doesn't matter if you write like a 3rd grader. Monkey bake cake with friends. Monkey happy. Alternatively, it has some suggestions on the side that it usually does a pretty good job on. I'm just going to select a futuristic cyberpunk. And then it'll have you decide on a style. Now there are these 6 styles right here, and then some artist-inspired styles you can mess around with. And they even have a few interesting options if you're feeling crazy. But I like to go with oil painting because it looks nice and artistic. And once again, you can describe a style on your own, like cartoony, but these have lots of preset details. And for my fellow Americans, yes, they did unfortunately spell watercolor with a U. I know, it's probably like the worst part. Then you move on to the video settings and try not to get worried about all the specific stuff here. It's gonna generate a video whether you like it or not. Basically, just select how long you want the video to be. Remember, it's 1 credit per second, so if you drag this all the way up every time, that number in your bank account will magically disappear. I generally don't mess with the camera movement too much because it makes a video kind of messy. Like if you tried to make a painting while it's rotating clockwise. If you want to see your initial image at the start of the video, check this box. It's kinda cool if you want to see it transform. And this evolve slider is literally just how imaginative you want it to be. A 1 isn't going to change very much throughout the video, but a 10 will be like spaghetti in a ceiling fan. If you can't decide, just pull a Goldilocks and settle for the middle where it's just right. And I wouldn't select the boomerang feature because it takes up half of the time for something you could literally do in iMovie. Finally, select the go-to preview frames and it will show you 4 different preview images. It's gonna base a whole video on whichever one you pick, but in the end there usually isn't much of a difference. Also, if you like any of the images here, you can just right-click and save them without spending any credits. Yep, you can also hit this back arrow and change any parameters that you don't like, so feel free to mess around with it. But once you click generate video, it'll take your precious credits and start making the video. It generally doesn't take too long, unless you selected the time for like 8 minutes. While it's generating the video, you'd have to generate something else to do because it'll be like that for a while. Even then, this thing generates videos much faster than I do, so unless you're trying to set a world record, it'll be done in a minute or so and you'll get your video as promised. And if you ever forgot to save it on this screen, you can always go back to the My Videos tab and it'll be there waiting for you, like me waiting for you to hit subscribe. But here's a creation in all its glory. Kinda cool, huh? But there's something you might be wondering. How? Because something like ChatGPT is simpler, where it knows to associate words with other words. But turning words into an image and then making that image move as requested? Although the artwork isn't fantastic, it's improving at a rapid rate. So let's dive into some of the logistics. Except it'll probably be like diving into Jello. I mentioned earlier that Kyber AI uses a process called Stable Diffusion. If you don't remember, it probably just flew right over your head. If you do remember, then your brain is making things up because I actually haven't mentioned it yet. If I wanted to be done with this script right now, I'd just copy and paste the whole Wikipedia article on Stable Diffusion. But I don't even get most of the stuff on there, so even though I do want to be done with this YouTube script, I'll explain it in a way that both you and I can understand. The way AI is trained with Stable Diffusion is by getting a bunch of images from across the internet, labeling them, and adding static until each one looks like a TV screen. When I was little, I called it the bees. It's like putting a drop of food coloring into water. Eventually you won't be able to tell where the drop came from because it's all just diffuses into the water. After enough training, the AI model is able to estimate how much noise has been added to an image. So to generate images, it just does all that in reverse. The model keeps subtracting static from a random staticky image until it looks like what could be your prompt. And it knows what is what because during training, each image was labeled with text. It knows what dog looks like and it knows what suit looks like. So it'll keep taking away static until you have an image of a dog wearing a suit. This is where it gets slightly complicated. Basically, that process just described would normally be extremely slow because there are so many color values. So it does all that in latent space. Latent space is just compressed data where the data points are much closer together. It's like an Avengers Endgame where Ant-Man was stuck in the quantum realm for 5 years, but it felt like 5 hours. If you're not a Marvel fan, that probably made things more confusing. But because it's much smaller, it takes up less time. And that's not all. Believe it or not, computers don't actually understand words. So it breaks up each word into a set of numbers called a token, and each token has its own unique value. But this serves another purpose, like a spork. The words man, guy, and dude can generally be used interchangeably, and so they have similar values so that the AI model knows that they're basically the same thing. So to go step by step, here's how the AI makes an image from your prompt. First, it generates a bunch of random static in the quantum realm. Then it predicts the amount of noise needed to reach your text prompt, which it knows thanks to the token values for each word. Then it keeps subtracting noise over and over until it reaches the desired image. Finally, it sends the image out of the quantum realm and back into pixel space where it's just a normal image. And that's about as in-depth as the average human being needs to know. It's like one of those 4 Dummies books, except you're not a dummy because you've already hit subscribe. But even a dummy could tell that a tool like Kyber has lots of potential. I mean, I didn't even mention the music to video feature, where it generates art and animations to go with your prompt and with the beat. Several artists have already used that feature for their official music videos, like that song Lost by Linkin Park. It's honestly kinda cool and I'd suggest checking it out, but only after you watch all my videos. There are some downsides to AI like this though. Currently it's not great at doing certain things, and hands are one of them. Human and AI artists alike all struggle with the task of drawing good hands, but some of the AI art is just atrocious. I mean, this one looks like it was tied in a knot. One way to avoid happy accidents like that is just to have the AI intentionally hide the hands, like behind the back or out of frame. There is, however, a bit of controversy with AI art. You remember how it's trained on images from across the web? Well, that means the images it generates is partially just a bunch of bits and pieces from other artwork and photographs. That subject is a little muddy though. In either way, sites like Kyber are constantly gaining popularity. People are quickly learning that generative AI is pretty cool, and it doesn't get much better than ChatGPT. So make sure to watch this video to cover everything there is about it.